Hi everyone, this is Holly from Hot Humble Pie. If you love decorating for fall as much as I do, you're going to love this video. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. I'm going to be working with Dollar Tree metal ribbon, and I'm just cutting off a little tag there, and I chose to measure out approximately 4-inch little strips. And I was really happy that regular scissors do cut this, but I did go grab some cheaper $2 scissors to use because I'm sure it's dulling the blade. Maybe not, maybe it's sharpening it. Here is some wire from ribbon. You know how you get wired ribbon when I don't want it and I pull it out? I save that because it's very petite and it can come in very handy when you need a discrete wire somewhere. So now I'm shaping them into little circles, and you just kind of have to work with them a little bit if they get a bit, you know, not warped, I guess, but not quite the circle. They're easy to do. They're easy to bend. So I just made as perfect of circles as I could, and then I am threading through these wires where I'm looking at. Here's the tricky part. You have to find a connection. So when I join the ribbon together, I'm looking for holes in areas that have an actual border all the way around, right? Because when you put your wire through, you can't have it slip out. So you have to find like little circles, and you have to find them on either edge, on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. I'm showing you here with the arrows. I do make connections as close as possible to the edge of either side of that metal ribbon with the wires so that the edges lay as flush and flat as possible with each other, and it's also necessary support when we move on to our next step. So when I'm all done doing that, I twist them. You know, you saw me twist and tighten them up, but connecting them, I did try with black ribbon, or not black ribbon, connecting them I tried with black wire, which I did show you a really fast glimpse of, and it's sharp enough in there where when I was pulling the wire through, it was getting stuck, it was pulling, it was cutting, and it didn't have as much flexibility. If you want to use wire, you can, but I opted to use this twine, and this is actually the Dollar Tree nautical rope pulled apart in all the little pieces, and I'm showing you here. See how there's that edge there? I'm showing you here, don't have it facing upwards, face it down because it's more discreet that way. You know, when you're going to form, we're making a pumpkin in case you didn't guess, and when you form that little pumpkin on the inside center, you want that seam facing downwards. One, it's not as sharp if you pick it up, although you're not ever going to come into contact with this in the end by how I make it. That's my cat. Sorry if you can hear my cat in the background. He always wants to come in when I'm talking, but I do tie them all together using twine. It works better for me, and I'm using some hot glue there because I don't want that twine to come undone down the road, so I'm just kind of securing it with a little bit of hot glue and my glue gun. Going to tie the final piece in place, and I put a little hot glue on the end of that and twirled it with my finger. I am using low heat hot glue right now, so I could touch it pretty fast. Be careful if you're going to do that. If you're using a high heat glue gun, you have to wait for it to cool, but it makes it really pointy and easy to thread through. So when all the little connections are done on either side of the seams, I'm showing you right there, I add a little bit. Well, first I place the circles as spread out as I can, you know, because you're forming a pumpkin there as evenly as possible in between each circle. I put a little hot glue to kind of help hold that together, and I'm showing you that these are the Dollar Tree plastic little jars that you can find there. That is what fit my center beautifully, and that's what I decide to put in my center. I just put hot glue all the way around it and then push it in gently, and this is the time, you can see I'm moving the circle right there. From the top view there, if you see some of your circles are not evenly spread out, that is a time to use your fingers like I am and manipulate them so that they're as evenly spread as they possibly can be. Now this lid forms a perfect little bowl for the Spanish moss for the next step, so I was really happy about that. And of course, these are some stems I got on Amazon. I can't find the stems still, even though I moved across the entire United States to the East Coast. I am still struggling to find those sticks in the Dollar Tree. So I ordered them off of Amazon, and I can provide the link down below. I hope I remember to do that. If I don't, I apologize. I'm going to try and put that link in there. And now I'm taking some pewter gray and I'm just painting the twine so that it's not visible, you know, just when you look at the pumpkin. It works out brilliantly. And I decided to go ahead and put some of the Spanish moss on the underside of this little pumpkin too. I'm doing it right there. And that way the center is just metal and moss, and it looks stunning. It is so beautiful. So you just press that in. I grab an autumn leaf. This is one of the Dollar Tree florals. I'm going to just do my little bits of embellishment now. I'm going to put an autumn leaf in there. I make a raffia bow. I stick it down with hot glue, of course, but I decided that it's not quite high enough. I just needed a little bit more bulk there. And this is, just have fun with this. This is completely where your artsy side comes out. Do whatever makes you happy and what you think looks good. I ended up adding a second bow just to come up a little bit more. And there's a little twirly thing that was on one of the flower stem little picks that I got from Dollar Tree. And I thought, well, that would be perfect for a pumpkin. So I stick it in there and we're all done. Look at that. I love this. Hey everyone, here are the other places you can follow me. My Facebook is brand new. I share other things over there, so be sure to check it out and follow me. You can also share your crafts there as well. For this DIY, we're just going to use some white acrylic paint and this tray from the Dollar Tree. And any one of these trays at the Dollar Tree will work. This is the one that I could find, and I'm giving it a quick, thick coat of white acrylic paint. Next, I'm going to take my paint sticks that I get from Amazon. These are the ones that don't have the little curled or cut into groove at the top, so you get more wood, a little bit thinner, but that's okay. I can't deal with little tops if I don't have to. I'd rather have the length. And I'm using the antique wax. Any antique wax or even watered down brown paint would work. And I watered it down with a little bit of water, and we're just staining the paint sticks, and then we're going around the edge of the tray as well to give it a faux wooden frame. Then I'm giving it a quick blow dry, and once it's dry, we're going to take and dry brush it with a little bit of white acrylic paint. We get this look when we're all done, which is really pretty and distressed. And we're also going to take and use the white paint to distress the paint sticks as well and give that the same look, but we're going a little bit more white on those. And then we glue those into the bottom of the tray. Next, we're going to take these Dollar Tree pumpkins and trace them out on the back of the cork the Dollar Tree sells with the sticky back. It's like a sticker cork, but I thought that would be really cute to make some cork pumpkins, and we're going to cut them out. And then you're just going to peel the white paper off the back because it's a sticker underneath and stick them down like that. This is a very rustic, primitive farmhouse fall decor look, which I love to have a little bit of that, especially during autumn. It kind of goes with the theme. And next I'm taking some raffia ribbon, making little bows, again keeping it nice and simple and clean, and we're going to glue all three on these pumpkins, and that's it, we're all done. For this next DIY, we're using these assorted Dollar Tree pumpkins just for the shape, and I have this foam that I saved from a delivery that I got from Amazon. It's that bendy, soft, smushy kind of foam, but it's nice and thick, and I knew I could use it for a DIY. You could also use cardboard for this DIY. Just pile up the cardboard and make it thicker, cut out more than one. Or you could just use a single one too. Thin is fine, so that's easier to store. I'm going to use my scissors just to cut them apart separately because I find that's easier to do when I go to cut it out now with the craft knife. I'm using a Dollar Tree craft knife. It was perfect for this. It just sliced right through it, and I cut all three of them out. Next, I have an assorted bunch of fabric. This is actually some ticking stripe cloth I found at Walmart on one of their pre-roll little, they're like pre-rolls, and I think it was a set price of $4 or $3. It was really cheap, and I was really pleased because it was 2.5 yards. It was quite a bit. And then this is also from Walmart. This is some burlap. Again, I don't remember spending hardly anything. I want to say it's $4 a yard at Walmart. It's not more than $4, and it's really wide, the burlap that I have them cut for me, so when I get 1 yard, it lasts me a long, long time. So with all of these pumpkins, I go ahead and make those little slits for the fabric all around the edge there, just to make it easier to glue it around the corners. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue the burlap on. Now, I did put backs on all of these because I knew for what I was making anyway, you would see the back. I don't usually do that, but because these are so thick, it just looks better. So you can see here there's a front and a back and a side, and so it looks nice and neat, and they're all like that. This is what they look like when they're all done, and the buffalo check fabric is from Dollar Tree to the left. I decided to give these guys cute little nautical robe stems. So I do the first one just leaving the nautical rope thick because the burlap's kind of heavy and the pumpkin is the biggest pumpkin. For the other two, I kind of pick apart the nautical rope a little bit and make it look like it's thinner pieces of twine, and that gives a different look for the stem as well, but it's complementary to the big one, so it came out nice. Then I borrowed this bow from another Dollar Tree item. It was a cutting board that I found, and I tore this off because I was going to do something else with that one, and I thought, oh, I'm going to save that. That's a really cute little bow because it has the black beads on the bottom. And now I had this ribbon from the Dollar Tree. It came in 3 different colors. I thought this was black, but when I put it against the ticking stripe, I think it might be like a gray blue. But I did go around the edges of all the pumpkins with this ribbon, even though I had covered them front and back and sides. I just felt like it gave it a cuter, just more detail. So I do the gray blue with a little matching bow for the ticking stripe one, and then I'm going to do the brown one with a matching brown bow for the buffalo check. And then I take and I do, it's like a red-orange color kind of. That one I do for the big burlap one. Now I kind of felt like I wish I hadn't done that. You guys have to let me know what you think, but I ended up gluing this flower on because these flowers come out. I don't know what this type of flower is, but you often see them during the fall time, right before the leaves start falling. So I put that on because it was burlap, it matched, but I wish, if I tried to take it off, I did, and it was, because I'm using the Gorilla Glue, it's good quality hot glue, you guys. I could not get that guy off without ruining my project. But I kind of wish I had just left the twine bow on with the black beads. I think that was enough, but I still like the way it came out. But sometimes when you're crafting, you'll do things, and even though it still looks good, you're like, oh, I just should have stopped before. I should have stopped while I was ahead. So this definitely needs a base. These do not stand up on their own, so I'm just using a Dollar Tree sign. I love these signs from the Dollar Tree because they look like faux. They're the best ones that look like faux wood, I think. They even have those little grooves in them to look like shiplap. And I'm just using the craft knife from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go over and over and over it and score it and score it and score it until I can just crack it off like that. I just break it off. And of course, since I'm doing a little bit of a rustic look, I always kind of do that during fall. If the ends right there are a little broken off, see how it looks like that? It just looks distressed. To me, it looks even better if you're doing the little pumpkin patch stuff or farmhouse stuff. That looks even better, so I don't worry about it. And I'm just kind of evening it up a little bit with my scissors. Now I'm going to go ahead and position my pumpkins down and glue them. So I save my leaves from flowers that I use to glue on bows and things like that. I take the leaves off sometimes if there's too much greenery in there. I save those for pumpkins, and I just custom cut it and put 3 little leaves on each of the pumpkins. And these do need braces. They just do because they're not solid, they're soft. And I go with the towering block to do that. I love the towering blocks from Dollar Tree for that purpose. They are great for support and base because you can build them whatever height you need. So I do 3 for the 2 in the front, and I glue 5 together for the 1 in the back, and I just put glue on the sides, well, on one side and on the bottom, just one side, because I'm going to stick it against the back of the pumpkin, and that works perfect. And now I can start adding my Spanish moss in there to cover up the braces in the back, and also just to put some in the front to make it look like a little pumpkin patch. And I did end up deciding to give this tray some little feet. These are the darker brown beads from the Dollar Tree, and I thought that would be so cute just to kind of elevate it a bit. But I will say that this particular board, the Dollar Tree sign, was a bit bowed. In fact, a lot of them were. I found them and I bought like 10 in white, 10 in black, 10 in brown, and almost the entire, there was like 30 of each sign. So there were tons of signs there. When I left, there was probably another 100. But I noticed they were all bowed, all of them. So I just totally tried this on a whim to see if it would work. I took some of the painter sticks and I glued it on the bottom, and then you can see what I'm doing. I'm bending it like in the opposite direction. You only need to do it once, by the way. I think I was okay with one painter stick, but I did two just in case, but it worked like a charm. It completely took the bow out of this sign. So if you guys make signs and they're bowed, go ahead and glue a brace on the back of it. It'll work just fine and it will hang nice and flat on your wall. But that's it, we're all done, and I love this. For this next project, I'm taking one of these Dollar Tree rounds. They're already pre-made. They're fairly new. I think they've been out a year or so, but they're so cute. They have the little wooden beads on the top and like a shiplap in the middle. And I'm just using antique wax and a baby wipe, and I'm staining it. Now, this one worked really well because the actual frame was smooth. I usually talk about the antique wax kind of catching on the wood. If the wood is really smooth, you can tell by rubbing your finger over it. If the wood feels like it's really slippery, then the antique wax on a baby wipe is going to work perfectly. Still using that wet wipe, I take and give it a little bit of a whitewash using a little bit of acrylic paint. I just barely put any on the tip of the wipe, but I felt like if I used a wipe, I had more control. If I dry brushed, I knew that I was going to hit the edges of the frame that I had just stained, and it did end up working out really well. In my first fall DIY video, I had used a decal that said gather, and it also came with home, and now I'm going to use the home one. Someone actually asked me, aren't those rub-on transfers? And I thought, oh no, were they? I don't think so. They were sticky. So anyway, they're definitely not rub-on transfers. They're decals, really super sticky decals. So I'm going to go ahead and get the word home off here and put it on the sign. Next, I took one of these Dollar Tree foam pumpkins, and using a kitchen knife, I'm going to cut it in half. You've probably seen this DIY before. I just don't have one, and I wanted to make one because I've always wanted one. I think it's so cute. You cut a pumpkin in half, and then you kind of take out the middle of it a little bit and carve it out and use it like a vase. I'm going to use a utility knife, and I'm not going to carve the whole center out or take too much out. I'm just going to take a little bit out so that I don't have a lot of bulk there, but I am definitely going to stick some of my florals inside the foam. And it was actually fun taking it apart because I discovered that centerpiece, that thing that looks like the bottom stem of the pumpkin, is basically just a skewer stick that they shove up there. It's really interesting when you take these apart because you realize how they're made. And then using a little bit of hot glue, I have it on a low setting here so it's not melting the foam. I'm going to glue it on the very bottom of that plaque so that I have some room up above to put my florals in. These are all Dollar Tree florals too. It looks like boxwood, but I don't know if it is boxwood, but it was part of a pick with a little pumpkin on and something that looked like a little bit of wheat. I'm not sure, but I tried to pick all my florals in super warm colors, yellows, oranges, wine colors, just the colors of fall. And then this pumpkin looked a little too plastic and cheap. So I took the baby wipe again, dipping it in a little bit more of the antique wax. And I use folk art antique wax, but any antique wax works for this. And I'm just kind of putting a little bit on my pumpkin just to kind of distress it and just make it have some dimension. It was very flat and very one-dimensional, and I think it looks a little bit more expensive when you change that up a little bit. When I stood back and looked at this, I realized the final touch for fall is sunflowers because they're really on trend right now, but I think it came up so cute. For this next DIY, I'm using the inside little drawer from those square wooden boxes you can buy at Dollar Tree. They come with a drawer. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. Mine has a little butterfly on one side of it, but I'm just taking some of the watered down antique wax again and using it for a stain. I thought this would be a perfect base, just something different besides a plant pot for what I'm going to do next. So I found a super cute pumpkin at Dollar Tree, but it did come on a stick, but I wanted it. It kind of looks like a cross between a burlap and a sweater pumpkin. So I just thought it was a perfect blend with the buffalo check and the burlap orange pumpkin. So I just sawed that stick off. It's super easy to do. And then to address the little butterfly on the front, which they put on these little boxes so that you can use it like a handle to open and close them, I'm just using some more of the sticky cork because that's going to tie in with the other DIY in this video. When it's all on the table, they're going to be next to each other, and I also thought it just added a lot of charm. Look at that. Just a simple little round circle of cork, and suddenly we're just changing that whole look of the box for the better. I love that look. I'm using another part of that pool noodle, and I'm going to fill this little box up with weight. And I'm just using an applesauce cup to reach in for those rocks. I don't know what it is about those rocks, but I always end up tearing my nails and breaking off some of my nails if I just reach in there and grab. So I used a little applesauce cup. Those are great, by the way, for fruit cups, applesauce cups, whatever. They're great for crafting because you can use them to mix paints, water. Just really handy to have. And I'm filling this all up with rock. You can put anything in there. You can go out to Mother Nature and grab some rocks for some weight, whatever you need to do. But you definitely have to weight the box down. And then I covered that with some Spanish moss. And now I'm putting my bottom pumpkin down. We're building a topiary with the buffalo check one. So the stems come out really easy for those of you that haven't done this before. You just pluck them out. You can see them right at the upper top hand right hand corner there. You can see the two stems that I pulled out from the buffalo check one and the orange one. Super easy because they're just foam pumpkins underneath. And I'm gluing some more of the Spanish moss on top of that. And then we're going to put the orange pumpkin on top of that. Lots of glue too, lots of glue. And at first I was going to do this without doing anything else. I was just going to use tons and tons and tons of hot glue and weight on the bottom to make this, but you'll see what I end up having to do. So we're gluing the burlap one on now, and then last but not least, we're going to glue the little, I guess it's like a faux sweater one, I guess, the little cream one on top. This one has a little bit of the stick left at the bottom, which kind of helped. I was able to kind of like put glue on the tip of that stick and then push it into the pumpkin on the top. So it helped like an anchor. And then that gave me an idea because this was still way too wobbly. I just grabbed some of the Dollar Tree skewers and pushed it down the middle all the way down so that it held all three pumpkins together. It disappears. I just pushed it all the way till it disappeared into the pumpkin, then I clipped off whatever was showing. And I did the same thing on the side to make sure that got down into the pool noodle, and what a difference it made. It was like day and night. You can turn this completely sideways now, and it's so strong. It's like what you would buy at a Hobby Lobby store. You would never know. You cannot, well, if you throw it across the room, it would break. But I mean, it's extremely sturdy. So definitely you stake something down the center of these pumpkins. And I'm just adding a little Spanish moss on the bottom just to make sure that it has a nice, it's covering the edge. I give it a haircut, and that's pretty much it. I love this one. It came up so high-end looking. I used 2 of these Dollar Tree pumpkins. They are the one with the ugly football right there on the back of it. The other one has another, you'll see it in a minute. But I was going to go with the Dollar Tree stick-on tile next to this one. You can see it right there. But I opted to go with this print instead because it's easier to put on and not have to worry about being even with the side little. See how the other one has like the side little dots? That's really hard to get it even when you're putting it on upside down, so I went with this one instead. And I just used scissors to cut around this pumpkin, and then for the fine little areas like the stem, I'm using a utility knife to cut the rest off. Here's the other pumpkin right here. That's the other one that I used. So I'm about to show you the neatest hack ever. I'm just taking white acrylic paint from Apple Barrel Paints. You want it to be more of a transparent paint. You don't want chalk paint here, although I think it still would work. And what you're going to do is paint it with really thick paint, and then you're going to go about removing the paint. So this is like a never before seen on YouTube thing, because usually the tiles that people use, and I used in my Easter video, are the silver ones that are really, they have the high bumps. But then you have to let it dry, then you got to dry brush it to bring the design back out. I want to show you guys a really quick, easy way to bring out these gorgeous designs. They don't look gold anymore, they actually look gray, and look at that. Look at that. It's absolutely simple to do. You are literally painting it and removing the paint. Just enough so you can see the design. You don't want to keep removing and removing, or well, maybe you do want the gold to show through. I didn't. So I don't mind on the stems so much, but I didn't want them to show on the pumpkin. But I do the same thing to the other pumpkin, and now we have these gorgeous designs. And by the way, these are my little French country themed pumpkins for those of you, because I have a lot of people out there that follow me for French country DIYs. So I thought I should throw one in there this fall season. This is perfect for that kind of decor. It's perfect for other decor too, but this is definitely a beautiful fall decor piece for if you're into the French country. So for the stems, I go ahead and remove most of the paint on purpose. I don't get too much of a gold sheen because there's still enough on there to make it look matte, so it's not shiny. But I'm actually using what's already there naturally, just the darker color of gold, to make my stems. So all you have to do for that is you're just rubbing, like I said, most of the paint off, not all of it. You don't want the shine to come through, or maybe you do, I didn't, but you just want like an antique gold without any shine to come through. So it almost looks like an aged gold. And I'm even going down at an angle. You can't see it so much right now, but there's like, I'm putting little subtle dry brushing little marks to make the top of the stem that goes down a little bit on the pumpkin. Just gonna give these guys a quick blow dry here and make sure that they're really, really dry. Next, because this is in the theme of a lighter decor, I just went ahead and painted the sides of each one of these pumpkins white. For this next part, you want to choose your softest brush. Look at how the paint stains the brush here. That brush is totally clean, but the orange paint stains it. Because I used acrylic paint for this trick, it doesn't have a lot of adhesion power because it is on a shiny surface. So what I chose to do was to squirt some Mod Podge on it, rather heavy, use a very soft chip brush, touch very lightly, and you can see the amount of times I go over it. Did you see that? I just make sure it's covered, and then I stop brushing, because if you brush too much, you'll actually remove your paint. You just want to get it sealed so it's sealed, and that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and give this some garnish, and I have these little flowers. They're dried, and oh my gosh, it took me about 20 minutes to remember where I got these from. This is from the Dollar Tree Potpourri. I saw them in there and I thought, oh, these are awesome. So I pulled them out of the potpourri set and kept them, and I have 2 of them. For this craft, because I am going to stick in the theme here of French country, but you can certainly make this farmhouse depending on what embellishments you add. You could make it just regular decor, you could even make this modern decor. This is one of those pumpkins that can lean in any direction, so it makes it very versatile for that reason. But I'm going to go ahead and use some of the crochet that is sold at the Dollar Tree and some of the Dollar Tree lace. I also used some of the Dollar Tree light burlap that came in a roll during the summer, and I just cut them in strips and kind of crisscrossed it like I did with the ribbon on the top. I'm sorry, I didn't show that, but you could see it on the top what I did with the ribbon. I also did it with the burlap underneath the ribbon. So now I'm taking and using some of the Dollar Tree nautical rope. I take that apart because you get these really, really thin pieces of twine, which I love. It's a little bit thinner than the one they actually sell that's thin at the Dollar Tree, which I haven't been able to find recently. That's why I've been doing it this way. But I tie a knot on the bottom. I'm showing you what I do. And I put a little bit of glue on that knot, wipe it off, and kind of twirl it with my fingers to make sure, I press down, twirl it with my fingers and make sure that it stays in a knot so my beads don't fall off in the future. Please excuse my fingers too. I was actually gardening and I was reaching into a rose bush and it scratched my arm, it bruised my hand, it chipped all my nail polish off. Gardening is so hard on you, and I'm not careful. I move fast, so I tend to get injured even though I'm having a good time. So another little trick too, if you can't get this twine to go through, is you put some hot glue on the tip of it, which I'm going to do here. I am using a low heat. Well, it's a Gorilla Glue gun, but I have the option of high heat or low heat. I work with low heat whenever I can because I have just been burned too many times severely where it's kept me awake at night. It's so painful. When I do need to use high heat, I go very slow and I'm very careful because there are some crafts, especially crafts, if you want to put them outside, you probably should turn up your glue gun. Like I made an apple bucket one year during fall, and that one did require high heat glue and good quality glue for it to stay together. But it's a good little trick. You wait for it to cool down a little bit, twirl it with your fingers, and then it's more like a needle, and it makes it super easy for you to thread the beads through or whatever you want to thread. And then I'm just tying it in a knot, exactly what I did on the other side I'm going to do on both sides. And then I'm just going to grab it in the middle, let them both hang down, and then glue that on the pumpkin. I decided to use 2 beads for the shorter pumpkin and 3 beads for the taller pumpkin, just to make them a little bit different but complementary to each other. So I just saved the leaves off of the Dollar Tree florals. These are the ones that actually came with this year's fall florals, and I cut them separately, as you can see, and then I trimmed them to look more like a pumpkin leaf. Sometimes I leave them. It depends on how it looks. Sometimes, again, for a little variation, because pumpkin leaves aren't uniform all the time with each pumpkin, I will trim one smaller, and other times I will leave it the way that it came. So I glue the leaf down, and then I use the crochet bow, and I glued that on top of the leaf. And I did the exact same thing for the other pumpkin. Lastly, I added those cute little dried flowers to the top of the bow. And here's what they looked like when they were all done. For this next project, you're just going to grab one of these cute little paddles from the Dollar Tree and remove the front sign there. It's that front sign that gives this DIY weight and makes it feel more expensive for sure. Especially when you go and you glue it on with hot glue afterwards, it adds even more weight. And I went ahead and took all the paper off. Super cute little cutting board, but I'm just going to show you how you can take these to the next level. I'm using Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster for my first coat. That's what I thought I wanted it to be, and I end up changing my mind and doing, well, I do the white acrylic paint over this color, but I still wanted to put the Waverly on first because it's very much a one coat paint and it blocks out the darkness. I wanted a really bright white, so I went ahead and did one layer with the Waverly chalk paint to really block out that, I don't know, MDF board, I guess, the brown color. And now I'm putting on the next layer, which is it's just white apple barrel paint. And I'm drying in between each one, and I'm using one of those little scoring tools there to hold it down so the board doesn't blow away when you're blow drying. If you have a heat gun and it doesn't make any wind, that's even better. Now I'm scoring my board, so ironically I don't use that scoring tool. I prefer using the little craft blades and actually cutting a groove that's pretty deep into my craft so that it looks and feels more legit. And next I'm taking this part here and I'm showing you how I distress it and make it look more like a craft store item instead of Dollar Tree. If it had glitter, I would have sanded off the glitter gently, but I just took some burnt umber from apple barrel paint. That color is just a darker brown color, and I dry brushed it on there and wiped some off here and there with a baby wipe wherever I needed to. But you just kind of keep working with it until you get the look that you want or that you like, and using more hot glue to glue it down. And next we're going to take some of the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree and wrap up the top, which again adds more weight. So this DIY has a lot of weight when it's done and actually feels really good quality. With the seasonal decor, I do like to keep them thinner, I'm being honest, so that you can store more stuff in your little craft boxes, because I don't want 10 boxes for each season of decor. I just don't. I have the room to store it, but I just don't want to travel that heavy anymore. So I want a lot of stuff, but I want to keep it down to like no more than 2 plastic containers. So the thin stuff is great for that. Look how nice this came out. I love this. We're starting off with pizza pans, and we're going to be painting them with chalk paint in the color plaster. I just gave it one thick coat. Now, I had the camera turned off here. It really made me mad, but this is easy, so I'm going to go through. I actually showed you how to do this, and I still had the camera turned off. This is my 3rd time. I am totally competent. I have no idea what was going on there. But I just took these painter sticks. They are the ones that are linked down below in my description box that I get from Amazon. They don't have that funky end there, so you get more wood. The trade-off is they are a little bit thinner, but I don't mind. I just taped them together using some masking tape. As you can see, I put them up on the pizza pan, flipped my pan over, got a pencil, traced where you have to cut right there. And then I have these really sharp scissors. They're probably for fabric. I got them at Walmart. They were only like $6, and they're amazingly sharp. I love these scissors. So if I ruin them, I'll get another pair. But they cut wood beautifully, and I just nibbled away at the wood to cut on the edge there, and then I took some hot glue and glued them down. That's it. It was that simple, but I still wanted to explain it to you. So now I'm going to take some Territorial Beige from Apple Barrel Paint, and I'm going to go ahead and give each one of these sticks a nice dry brush to begin with. After that, I take a baby wipe and I'm going to just smear it a little bit just to give it more of a stained look, but I still wanted that kind of rough painted look, like paint chipped off. That's why I started off with the dry brush, and we get that nice, beautiful, uneven look, which is perfect for fall time if you're looking for a rustic craft. Here are some wooden leaves from the Dollar Tree that they seem to come out every year in their little area there where they have the cutouts. I love that. They're beautiful. And I'm taking some of the Apple Barrel Paint and Pumpkin Orange, and I'm just giving them a really rough paint using the baby wipe again. Now, I'm not doing it evenly and solid on purpose, because if you hold a leaf up to the light in nature, they are never one solid color. So we're using nutmeg brown, pumpkin orange, and we're going to also be using flamenco red for this part with the leaves. So I took a baby wipe, like I said, and you'll see here I'm just haphazardly painting. I'm not doing it in a way that's covering it solid on purpose, because when it's all said and done, these leaves are going to look really legit. So you just get a feel for it. Once you get a feel for it, you can do this. It's actually easier. And I'm not changing baby wipes. I use one baby wipe for this whole craft, and I just flip it, as you saw, in another area where it's clean and I haven't got any paint on. So we're going to start off here, and we're going to put our red on exactly the same way we did the orange and the brown. Now with the brown, you're going to see me go back and lighten at the center, because I realized that I am going to put some letters on these leaves and that the brown might be a little too dark. So I was concerned about that. So with the red one, I felt like it still looked a little too fake. So I started using a little bit of the nutmeg brown, just painting it on the edge there, and adding some shadow here and there and some character. I actually go back and add, you'll see, I'm going to add in like actually the stems too. Not the stems, the veins, I guess, the little part of the leaf that the nutrients from the tree get to. I don't know what that's called. It's like a little thin branch that goes through the leaf, but you'll see me add it in as well. So that's what we have so far. And here's where I lighten up the brown one. I'm just going to put some light in there, and I am going to go over that too, but I just want to get definitely some lighter center area there to make sure on the brown one that my letter does stand out so you can see it. And now that the orange has dried a little bit, I'm going in with the nutmeg brown, and I'm doing that on the edge with all of them. And then I decide to go ahead and add in those little stems or veins or whatever they are that run through leaves to make it look more realistic. And I'm going slow here to show you what I did. I'm just taking my finger there underneath the white, going down the center and out to the side twice on both sides, again to give it more of a realistic look so it looks more like a fall leaf. And that's what we have when we're all done. Now I'm taking some of the stencils from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to take a pencil and go ahead and write out the word fall on these leaves. So a trick that I found that works really, really well is to mark with your pencil where you want your letter to start on the left edge so that you get it in the center. So you kind of have to guess a little bit because the stencil is, it's, you have to look at the stencil and you have to figure out, eye it a little bit, like how wide is this letter, about how much is that going to spread out on my wood form, on my little leaf. But it did work out by marking the left hand side, because when I didn't do that, I actually did have the F go too far to one side and I had to redo it. So I trace it with pencil, I go back in and fill it in with the black permanent marker, and we're all done with that. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the nautical row, and I'm going to glue 2 rows around my pizza pan. After that's done, I'm going to take my pencil and put some faux shiplap lines on the pizza pan, but you're not really going to see these very much. They're going to be mostly covered. And I just take my pencil and pretend like I'm partially erasing them to blur them and mute them so they look softer. Next, I'm going to add all my little florals in first. Now, originally I tried to shove some of the Spanish moss down inside, and it was not working. I could not get the stems to go in there without scraping the pan. It was just a lot of work. So what I found was easier was to first put your florals in where you want them, and then you secure them by pushing the Spanish moss in between each one of the little painter sticks like that, what I'm doing right here. And you can always add glue if you want to as well to keep the Spanish moss in place. I didn't do that. I just pushed it in there really tight, but that worked better. Now I'm positioning my little leaves up at the top there so that they're laid out and balanced in a nice way. And that's it. It says fall. Isn't that pretty? And next, we're going to make these little tiny bows out of the raffia. Now that's my real raffia to the left there. I'm sure you guys recognize it. I'm going to make little tiny bows to cover the little holes on the top of the leaves. I just thought that would be cuter than putting the spackling on them. You can fill them with spackling if you want, but I just wanted to do the little bows. I thought that looked cute. Next, I'm going to go ahead and lay duct tape down first, because the pizza pans are definitely a challenge for making hangers. You can always take a drill and drill holes out of them and actually really loop something through because they're very thin. It's easy enough to do that. But I also found this works just as well. Use duct tape because that's extra strong for outdoors. And you put your nautical rope down on the glue, and then you put another strip of duct tape just like what you saw, and you push down really hard while it's still hot, and you shouldn't have any problem. And I think this came up so beautiful. This project, I'm using 2 crates from the Dollar Tree, and I'm showing you that I got different ones in different sizes. Now you can use them vertically or horizontally, it's totally up to you, but because one was shorter than the other, I decided to go ahead and use them both vertically. I'm just taking some hot glue, this is Gorilla hot glue, on the low setting, and I'm going to glue these 2 crates together. Next, I'm using the color in Pumpkin from Apple Barrel Paint, and I'm going to give one crate a coat with the pumpkin color, and the next crate I'm going to go ahead and use Apple Barrel Paint again in the color Antique Parchment, and I'm going to give one coat here as well. Now see that paint right there where it's gathering in between the crates? I just take a kitchen knife and go through to remove that. After that, I take antique parchment and I do some dry brushing on my bigger orange crate pumpkin. And then I did a dry brushing here with like a soft sherbet type orange, which I did not care for at all. So I'm just showing you why it's a different color. And I'm repainting it again with the antique parchment to start again. This time I decided to take the color Burnt Umber from Apple Barrel Paint and give the cream one a dry brush. Well, it's not quite a dry brush, it's kind of just a distressing thing, and I use a baby wipe to wipe off if I put too much down, and I paint the bottom a solid dark color. I do the same thing on the orange one, I just don't go as heavy, but in order to make them match a little bit better and come together, I went ahead and used Burnt Umber on this one, and I also paint the bottom the dark color, a solid color, till it, I don't know why I did that, I just thought it looked more finished. This is the assortment ribbon I came up with to make a messy bow for these pumpkins. I do have a full tutorial on how to make bows. You can find it down in my description box. All of that ribbon was from the Dollar Tree except for the thicker twine one. I got that from Temu, I think for $2 or under. It was very cheap. I remember thinking it was comparable to the Dollar Tree, maybe even a little cheaper per yard. And then I'm just using some hot glue. Now, the reason I didn't show you me cutting these little branches on top that I use for stems in half is because I do end up actually tearing them off and replacing them with taller ones. So for now we're just focusing on the bow, and I take and strategically glue that to cover up the holes on the top pumpkin so you can't see that because that taller crate did have some little holes on the top like handles. And then I'm using these tiny pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. I'm just cutting off the stick. These are going to be glued in the center like this for some extra embellishment. I thought that looked so cute. And now I'm taking some leftover leaves from the fall florals again. I've talked about that previously, and we're going to do that for the pumpkin little leaf, I guess, just to give some greenery. And here I go. This is when I rip off the stem because I thought, Holly, that's just not working. So we take the taller stem. I'm definitely going to do my bows first, I think, and try to plan ahead how tall they're going to be, because once you start stacking up the embellishment, your stem can disappear. So I tore that off. Here's some leftover metal ribbon, and I cut it right down the center, and this is a great trick. It came up so cute and totally went with the rustic theme of these crate pumpkins. I'm taking a paintbrush and just spinning it around the paintbrush, and I chose a paintbrush because it gets gradually thinner at the top, so it makes that little metal ribbon look more legit, because I'm going to turn that into one of those little curly cube things that come out of the pumpkins. See right there? And I glue those down, and they are so cute. I really think that makes these DIY crate pumpkins that much more special. And that's it. And I love the way these came out. For this next project, I'm using the Dollar Tree pumpkins. I thought that the design and feel of them was really nice. They were heavy, but they just looked cheap, and I think it was that print right there. I didn't like that. I liked the front pumpkin. So I'm just peeling the paper off, and I do end up spraying it. You'll see her later. That little spatula on the side there, though, is wonderful for scraping things off and getting under the paper. I tend to be impatient. I know if I had squirted this ahead of time, it would have just rolled right off, but it still worked. I got everything off. For the next step, I'm aiming to make this pumpkin look more like the orange one, but just a complementary look. So I'm starting off with some white Apple Barrel acrylic paint. I put way too much on there, so I had to put some back in the jar. But I'm going to go ahead and paint the front of it and the sides. And I don't know if it's my imagination, but I could swear Apple Barrel paint made their white less transparent. I seem to remember using it years ago, and you had to do 2 coats, and now I notice 1 coat, if you're really generous with it, does the job. So the next thing is painting the side here, because even though the side was already brown, you could tell it was that MDF board, and I just didn't like the look of that. So I took some nutmeg brown from Apple Barrel Paint, just painted the side. And now I'm taking the same color, nutmeg brown, and I'm going to add some, I guess, distressing and contrast to this. I'm just going to make it look a little bit more rustic and a little bit more like it's on a farm for fall and pumpkin patches, and just my taste, my style here. And I'm leaving this in because I thought, well, I could just say I dry brushed, but I didn't quite just dry brush. I did some other steps here, and when you see the final product, you won't know how I got there unless I kind of show you the steps. So I did try to shorten it down as much as possible, but the next step I do is I take a chip brush and I'm just doing some dry brushing with the white paint, and I don't like it. And after I'm done with this, I'm like, that's way too streaky and weird looking. The method or technique that I used on the big pumpkin didn't go down so well on the little pumpkin. So I take a baby wipe and I just start wiping it off to get kind of a cloudy look. That's what I'm after now, is more of a cloudy, soft look on top of it. And then I'm just distressing the edges with the white paint. See right there on the right hand side? I thought, I don't like that either. I did too much. So I wiped that off a little bit, went around, controlled the distressing, and then I decided to take a baby wipe and wipe in the middle of each one of those bigger brown spots. See the effect you get? That's a nice little trick. I love that look. I love that look when you kind of break up the circle a bit and make it look almost like a knot in a tree. Maybe the opposite, because knots are usually dark in the center, I think, but still it looks really nice. And then I just take the baby wipe and I'm also wiping around the words fall vibes. I wipe off the paint around those words to make sure that they pop. Now I'm taking the Dollar Tree little wooden plaque here, and again started off putting the antique wax. That's what I'm using. You can use any antique wax. I started putting it on with a baby wipe, and it just sticks too much on every time I try it on raw wood. I'm always unhappy, and the little trick that I do is I just add water to it. It's that simple, and you use a brush and it glides on beautifully. I'm also a big fan of a water-based acrylic stain that is also really glidey and beautiful, that I have down in my description box from Amazon. So if you don't like working with the wax for some reason, it does take a little longer to dry. You can always use the water-based stain. It looks the same, just as slippery. On wood, it definitely has a better glide factor, and it's also unscented. So either one is very acceptable. I'm just using up what I have. So I'm using the same bow that I took off in the beginning. That bow actually came with it, but I thought it was a really nice bow. And instead of doing wooden beads, I decided to use these little, they call them decorations, because I think you can either, depending, they don't say it's an apple or a pumpkin, because I think depending on how you paint it, you can make it look either way. I mentioned that in the video from last week. And I'm going to use those as the wooden beads. I thought that would be so cute and so different. So I'm just taking a little bit of raffia, tying a knot on the end of it, and then pushing it down into the little crevice. There's like a crevice, because these are supposed to be little pumpkins or apples. You can push it down where it kind of disappears a little bit behind the stem, and that worked fine. And then I'm putting my bow back on after I glue those two little pieces of raffia down. This is really simple. This is what I was after, more of a just really, you know, when you go in Hobby Lobby, you don't see the cheap paper on top of the crafts that much. So you can always take Dollar Tree stuff and just really level them up just by removing the paper, or in some cases the glitter, and painting it. And suddenly it's a higher end looking craft. I'm adding a stand, wooden little cute pumpkins hanging off, gluing it together now using Gorilla Glue. And I was really shocked that not that much effort took this from just meh, you could tell it was like a Dollar Tree decor piece, to like, ooh, wow, that looks like it came from Hobby Lobby. That's really nice. Look at that. I just recently found these awesome cutting boards at my local Dollar Tree. They have, I'm pretty sure, a super wafer thin piece of wood on the top that has wood grain. So they look awesome. They are definitely leveled up. plastic cutting boards. You know, we used to, well, I still like those too, but these actually look and feel like wood, and they're pretty thick. So for $1.25, you can't beat it. I picked it up. I so wish they would just sell these without any writing. If you're listening, Dollar Tree, if you could sell these with no writing on it, would be awesome for a crafting piece. But I tried gently sanding off the imagery, using a little bit of nail polish on a Q-tip in a corner discreetly. Nothing worked. I even tried my little knife to try and scrape it off to see if I could still just take the ink off only. So I went ahead and gave it one coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, because I knew that was a one coat paint that would make, you know, it would block out those words. So when it dried, I ended up dry brushing some of the white acrylic paint over it just to give it a little bit more dimension and distressed look. I didn't want it a solid color no matter what. I actually don't have any Waverly white chalk paint at the moment. I usually make my own. Don't have any of that at the moment either. Probably because I just moved and there's just been so many priorities over ordering homemade chalk paint that I keep grabbing the easiest thing at Walmart. And last time I was at Walmart, they didn't have any white chalk paint. If you don't have or know how to make my homemade chalk paint, the video links are down below in my description box, but it's a great money saver. So as you can see, this is giving me nice dimension. I love that look. It would also look good flat if that's your style, but I just love to have a little bit of dimension and dry brushing and distressing on my home decor. I think it looks really pretty. I don't go overboard. I mean, not everything in my house is distressed, but I do love it. Definitely a theme in my home. So I blow dry it, and then these words were a great find at the Dollar Tree. You can see it falls to the bottom right there, and I'm going to put it back in the plastic sheet. But it comes with 3 words. So that one says love. I'm putting it away right now. And the other ones say gather and home. And I saw that. I thought, oh my gosh, that's perfect for Thanksgiving and fall. But those are 3 different words, 3 different DIYs. For $1.25, you can't beat that. That was a great deal. They are a little tricky putting down, at least this word was, because it's such thin, you know, the letters are so thin, and it's cursive. So you don't have, it's kind of, for me anyway, it was challenging to balance in the middle. I'm being honest, that was my 7th try, and I was looking at the edge of the R and the edge of the G to get an equal distance from the edge of the cutting board. So I'm taking the little ivy there, or I think that's like a little vine, I guess, and I'm going to put that in the center because we have the crate on this cutting board. I didn't want the word covered, so I decided to put gather at the top and then put those in the middle. But here is a pool noodle from the Dollar Tree. Most of you probably know that hack, but in case you don't, it makes great floral foam, super cheap. And I'm just taking some Spanish moss and covering it up. Now on the side, because the crate has little holes right there, I did have to crunch some up and put more in the holes to make sure my pool noodle was covered up. But it's a great hack. Pool noodles work really well for that. I decided to do some Mod Podge on top of the cutting board because the paint that I use is a flat paint. It like dries matte, really dry looking. And because those are a shiny sticker, I don't think they're vinyl, I think they're like plastic. It just, you saw it, it was too noticeable. So I want to put this in my kitchen. I thought, you know, Holly, you're gonna have steam and cooking and things like that. So I went ahead and sealed it with Mod Podge, and it also toned down the shininess of the letters because now the whole board was shiny, but it came up really, really pretty and high-end looking. You can see it a little bit right there, the shine, it was nice. So I take my hot glue, glue the crate on the front, and now I'm gonna use these little mini Dollar Tree pumpkins. I love these. I'm so sorry, you guys, I do not remember what they're called. I took them all out of their packages and put them in a basket, but I think they look so realistic. They come with little clips on the bottom of them, super easy to tear off and remove. And now I'm just using a little bit of glue because they were gonna roll otherwise, and I'm gluing them where I want them to be. Next, I'm taking these cute little daisies, and that was also Dollar Tree florals there for fall. That's some of their, I guess that's their autumn line of florals. And I'm going to glue 2 flowers on either side of the beige pumpkin. And here's a crafting supply I actually ordered from Temu. This was a great deal. It's like a burlap ribbon, but it's super thick. It's really nice. and I didn't pay above $2 for it. It was cheap. I'm just making a bow out of that, gluing it on the top, and we're done. And I absolutely love this one. It's in my kitchen right now. I'm using a Dollar Tree pool noodle and a utility knife, and I'm just going to cut all the way around the pool noodle. Next, I'm using a paper bag and cutting it in strips, although if I had to do this craft again, I would actually recommend the brown paper you can buy. It's much softer and more pliable and easier to work with your hands. But if you do use a paper bag, definitely crumble it up like you see me doing here to kind of make it more pliable and workable and softer. So I folded the ends in, as you can see there. That's kind of a way that you tuck it in so that they don't pop out when you roll these, and you're just going to roll them around and around and make lots of, I guess, twirls with this paper. This is something I saw on Pinterest, and I did see a couple crafters do different versions using well, paper bags. They did it with a pumpkin form. They didn't, the little wreath form, they didn't do it this way. But I thought that this would be fun because it's similar to like the toilet roll pumpkins that I made 2 years ago, but you're using a pool noodle. I looked at it and I thought that kind of looks like a you know the inside of a toilet roll when you're done using the toilet paper. Why not? We'll use it for a pumpkin. So you just go around this pool noodle, and I do have my glue gun set on low heat because the pool noodle will melt if you use high heat glue, although I think if you keep holding it there, it does finally bond and cool down. So sometimes you can get it to work, especially if you're working with bulky material. And then I decided this guy needs a platform. He definitely cannot stand up on his own when you're done with this. So I took one of the little squares from Dollar Tree and some wooden beads, and I'm kind of making this more of a primitive looking rustic craft, I guess. I want it to look really old and simple, very simple. So I'm using some of the Spanish moss. I first put it on top and kind of crunched it down so it took shape, and then I'm just going to use one of the wooden sticks that I got from Amazon. The link is down below in my description box. I'm using that for the stem, and then I'm also going to put some Spanish moss around the bottom of the stand. I wish I had round circles. They were sold out at Walmart. I can't find them at my Dollar Trees. I don't know if they make the really thin round circles. If they don't, they should. That would be a great seller, but because I think this would have been cuter on a little round circle platform, but I try to take the Spanish moss around the bottom here just to soften the look of the square. It still comes up cute. I mean, you just make it work. You know, I make it take a rounder shape with the Spanish moss, but it would have been nicer to have the round shape to begin with, but it came up totally cute either way. So I'm just putting the moss around the front, and I'm going to turn it around the back and do the same thing. Next, we're using the good old leaf from the Dollar Tree floral picks. I used to throw these away years ago, but they are really good for crafting. They're great pumpkin leaves, obviously, but a lot of times when you use their florals, you actually have too much bulk if you leave the leaves on. So when you take them off, keep them. I mean, you can also use them to make, well, I'm not going to say because I might do it for Christmas, but I'm taking some of this ticking stripe material here that I had left over. It was a scrap, and I decided to keep it so that I could cut thin strips and make little ticking stripe ribbon for when I want to make a primitive type looking craft. This was the perfect opportunity for that. So I just glued the bow onto the top. I'm going to go ahead and add a little raffia. I love adding raffia almost to all of my pumpkins because it's really the only time that I really use raffia in a big way. Maybe a little bit in Easter, but I use it in a huge way during fall. I just think it gives a great feel of like hay and pumpkin patches. It just kind of gives the whole ambiance. So I put that on the top, and then you're going to see me trim off the longer little pieces right there, and I do them kind of unevenly so it looks nicer. And we're pretty much done, and I think this came up very cute. For this project, we're using 2 of the Dollar Tree signs and the paint sticks that I get from Amazon that don't have the little uneven top there, and they just happen to fit perfectly. You don't need to cut them for these 2 signs, so that's really awesome because you can make some really neat things without any, a lot of hard work. So I'm using 2 of these to make them a little bit thicker because I'm using 2 signs, and I'm just using the Gorilla Hot Glue to glue them together. Next, I'm going to take white paint. It's just white acrylic paint from Apple Barrel, and I'm going to give this 1 coat. We're going to give this a quick blow dry for the next thing, and then I just grabbed 2 pumpkin shapes that I needed. So you can grab any pumpkin shape, that's my point. You can even cut one out from cardboard by tracing it off of your computer screen. You can go directly to your computer screen, or you can print it up. If you do trace from your computer screen, you should use a soft tip marker. I usually do. It's like a washable kids one, so in case it bleeds through and gets on the computer screen, you can just wipe it off. But that's a really neat, easy way to get a printable without the hassle of having to buy ink or get a printer. But I'm going to go ahead and trace 1 big pumpkin, 1 little pumpkin, and then I'm using Apple Barrel paint in the color pumpkin, the orange color, to paint my first pumpkin. And then my second pumpkin, I'm going to paint it a softer orange. It's almost like a sherbet color from also Apple Barrel paint. And this is a Pinterest inspired craft. I tried to find out who did it. I actually tried to find it again. I took a screenshot of it on my phone, and I don't know where I found it. I don't know who did it. So if you're watching, I want to say it was for sale on Etsy, so I'm not sure if it is something you can find easily on Pinterest. But anyway, I add a little bit of the pumpkin orange in with the lighter orange just because I want it to have a little bit of dimension. I didn't like quite how light it was, but I will tell you guys, I am not a painter. Like everything I do, I would define as abstract. I have to do abstract because I can't paint. And I really struggle with the lines on the pumpkin getting a nice curvature. But my point is if I can do it, anybody can. That's why I put it up on the video today. So you can see that even somebody with no painting skills can make, when it's all done, you'll see how cute it is, because sometimes the abstract little painting, you can actually find those a lot of times at Kirkland's or Hobby Lobby, and they're a lot of money. And I think, oh, I could do that because it's not perfect, and it's the imperfection that makes it so cute. So I'm just doing some of the nutmeg brown for the stem. That was nutmeg brown for the stem, and also for the little grooves in the pumpkin. And then I'm going to take this knife. Now, this is a trick that I do on my crafts, and I thought, why not? Let's do it on the painting. You just use a craft knife and you just scrape up lines like this, and it makes it look so 3D and realistic. So it worked. It looks great. In fact, I think my stems are probably the best part of this painting. But I also end up using that knife to scrape a little bit of those brown lines, the grooves on the pumpkin as well. You'll see that in a minute, to remove some of the paint. Here I go, right there. It removes some of the paint and helps create a nicer curvature. That's another thing you can fix it. You can paint over it, or you can scrape some of it away. It gives the painting a little bit of texture because, it is on a kind of rustic looking piece of wood. So this doesn't have to be perfect. It's a fall craft, though you get away with rustic for sure. Even if that's not your normal decor, you get away with it. So I'm just kind of fixing my lines a little bit, and then I go in with some more orange paint and paint over that. And you just have to keep playing with it until you get it to be where you're comfortable with it, you're happy. And of course, if you know how to paint, you'll be really happy. I do like when I scrape, though. It actually gives it a different color when I go through with the orange. It gives it more dimension. So next, I do remember, I'm going from a photo right now, and it has the little curly cubes on the top. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I don't feel like a good enough painter to do this kind of thing with the thin brush. I mean, I could have if I had practiced for a while, but I'm using a furniture marker from the Dollar Tree in the color walnut to do this, and it looks just fine. It matches close enough, so that's what I do. And then I'm adding another little curly cube here at the top there because that's a bigger pumpkin. I'm trying to copy what I'm seeing on the photo there, but it's hard. But I'm content at this point with what it looks like, and I'm just erasing my pencil lines. By the way, I did draw everything with pencil first, so that in case I made a mistake, you know, I could erase. And I'm using the point here to scrape away just the tip of these little curly things to make them look a little thinner and more delicate, I guess, going up instead of a thick marker line. Now, I didn't show you this part. These are the Dollar Tree leaves right here, the burlap ones. I originally was going to glue 3 of them on there because I thought, oh, that'll be nice, but it just didn't look right. It looked kind of gaudy. So I do end up taking some burnt umber and adding a little bit of distressing to each leaf, but you'll see at the end, I only end up keeping the orange leaf and the bow that I made. So that's Dollar Tree ribbon with the hula skirt there. I just made a bow, a simple bow out of the ribbon and a simple bow out of the hula skirt, and I glued it on top of the ribbon, and that was it. You will definitely have to let me know if I should have kept the green leaf on. I did end up definitely taking the burgundy one off, and I ended up taking the green one off. I just went for a very simple look. I would love your feedback because I can always add, but I just tie a little hanger on and we're all done. For this one, we're using the Gather Here with Grateful Hearts vinyl placemat from the Dollar Tree. I thought it's perfect for autumn. I'm just going to take a round dish to go ahead and trace it out as evenly as I can. Any round dish that fits that placemat will work. I'm using one that is plastic from the Dollar Tree. It kind of bumps up a little bit so that I can hold on to it a little bit better than just a flat plate. And I'm cutting it out. Next, I'm going to use this Craft Bond Extra Strength Elmer's Craft Stick. I will say the Dollar Tree glue sticks seem to be just as good, but since this is shiny, you know, you have to make decisions when you're crafting, and this is already a resistant type material to get it to stick because it's shiny vinyl. So for this one, I went with the brand name glue stick just to be sure, because I had done it before with these placemats and it didn't come off, it stayed, and I didn't want to take any chances because the pizza pan is also shiny, so the whole thing is kind of shiny. And here we are with an upright pizza pan. This one is not upside down, and that's because I wanted to put the faux wood frame on the edge here. I'm just taking some antique wax with a baby wipe and gently going around and creating some faux wood. You can use any antique wax you work, or sorry, you can use any antique wax that you want. It all works. And now I'm using the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and glue on the inside of this pizza pan. And this pizza pan is designed to go with those of you that love neutral farmhouse or just neutral fall decor. This isn't even farmhouse. There's always a little bit of a rustic look because you deal with the autumn leaves and trees, and kind of can't avoid that too much with autumn unless you go glam. But for people that love the neutral decor, the ones that have a lot of the warm browns, greens, soft creams, very soft peachy pumpkins, that kind of thing, this is a perfect wall decor piece for you. I went ahead and did 2 rows of the nautical rope, and I'm going to use that Dollar Tree Hawaiian skirt again to get some of a, I guess, raffia look. I do have normal raffia, but I like the way the Dollar Tree hula skirt hangs down. It kind of drapes heavier. Well, it's made to be a hula skirt, that's probably why. But the raffia sometimes can be, you kind of have to bend it, you know what I mean, to get it to drape gracefully downwards. So I just went ahead and went with the hula skirt instead because it gives the same feel of straw, and it looks really pretty and works really well for bows, as you can see. So I'm just making a super thick bow here, and I'm going to start making my messy bow. I love messy bows. I've talked about this in other videos, but I do want to point out that I am removing the wire because for some reason they were slipping out and they were poking me, and I felt like someone might get hurt. So for this messy bow, I chose to take them out, and you just slide down the corners, grab some tweezers. I'm using Dollar Tree tweezers, and yank those babies out. They come out super simple, and that's it. So back to the messy bow. You know how you walk in a fabric store and you see all of this beautiful material and they're all mismatched, but they're matched and they're all color coordinated. I think that's why people make quilts too, so you can get all of the pretty fabric together in one place and you get that whole energy. It like creates all the different fabrics and prints create one singular energy, which is really, really pretty. You get the same thing with the messy bows. So when you're making singular bows, it's really hard. Loop bows even, you kind of can't put that much ribbon into it to get a feel like that. But with this one, I can go, oh, I love this ribbon, I love this ribbon, I love that one and that one and that one, and I can make I can make a bow out of all of them too. That's what I'm gonna do. So, because I go into the Dollar Tree and I love their fall ribbons. I love their ribbon, period. It's just a great deal for the price. I love it. Hobby Lobby has good deals too when they come on sale. But I just put that all together. I do have a separate bow video. I mentioned that in other videos too. It'll be down below in my description box. You can check that out. It does have individual tutorials for each and every bow I've ever made and the proper name for them as well. And that is really handy. So if you want to check it out there, but you can kind of see what I did. So now I'm just gluing the straw bow on top of that bow. I'm using one of the pumpkins from the Dollar Tree that is neutral. I love that look. And just for a little bit of a splash of color, I'm going to go ahead and use some of these, or actually a sunflower. I'm going to go ahead and glue that on. Doesn't that look sweet? I love sunflowers too. They make me happy. I don't know if it's because they make cartoons out of them with little happy faces, but they always look so cheerful to me when I see them growing on the side of the road. I'm like, hello. Hello, Mr. Sunflower. And here I'm adding, again, really soft colors. This is kind of a peachy orange, but it ties in the fall colors in the ribbon beautifully. Did the same back on that one to hang it. And these shall remain unnamed. Did you see that? It said just decor. I think it's because they can pass for apples or pumpkins, depending on how you paint them. So they're not going to name them. But in keeping in with the neutral theme, I go ahead and glue those on either side. And I forgot to do this. I don't know why. Oh, I should have done this. If you make this pizza pan or any pizza pan that doesn't have the nautical rope as an edge that you're going to touch with your fingers, you have to seal it, because over time, the pizza pans, especially if they're going to be outside on a door, they tend to want to lift up, especially if your hands are sticky or sweaty or cold. So you do have to seal your edges. I just take the Mod Podge. It was super easy. You can see what I'm doing here. I just cover the whole edge and that will preserve it. It's pretty much that way though with, you know, like I said, if you're the rope, you don't have to worry about it because obviously you're touching rope. That's why I like doing them upside down because it gets the nautical rope there and you can touch it all day long and nothing will come off. But this is also a very pretty look. So when you do this, make sure you seal it. I was going to take it outside and just spray the whole thing, but I didn't want to get everything all over the florals this time and the nautical rope. But I love the way this one came out. For this next project, you're going to be using some paper towel rolls. You could also use toilet rolls, just any kind of roll that you want. I'm going to cut them to the height of the craft stick, but you can cut them to whatever height you want. If you're using extra large or extra long craft sticks, you can cut them to that height. And I'm going to cut a total of 4 of these. Next, I'm going to measure to make sure they all fit the craft stick height that I pre-cut. And then I'm going to go about, you know the drill, we're going to go about cutting the craft sticks. Next, we're going to apply the hot glue vertically all the way up that roll and start applying all of our craft sticks until all of it is covered. And of course, I'm going to be covering all 4 rolls. So if you look, you can see there's a little bit of an opening there where the craft sticks didn't completely cover these rolls, and it happened on all 4 of them, and it's absolutely no big deal. Do not stress about it, my friend. You are not going to see that. you deliberately are going to turn them inwards and face each other. See how I'm putting those openings towards the center and gluing them so that it hides it? That's all you have to do, so don't be concerned if your craft sticks don't fit perfectly, because you're not going to see it, and you're going to glue all 4 of them together just like you see me doing here. Remember those wooden stakes that I used for the first tray? The first DIY? I thought it would be super cute to use the top of it, waste not, want not. So I went ahead and glued that down in the center. And if you can guess, we're making a pumpkin, but I do end up switching the top. Waste not, want not. Oh well, I wanted it to look, it just didn't, it was too straight. So I felt like it looked like a rocket more. But I went ahead, I just want to show you what I did because you're going to see me tear it off here at the end. But I went ahead and I painted it. I painted the pumpkin. We're making a little wooden pumpkin here. I went ahead and painted that a light orange. It was apple barrel paint. Any orange will work, whatever you like. You can do a soft green, cream. Pumpkins now, they do them in all different colors. It looks so pretty. And then to cover the top, we're just taking some Spanish moss and we're tucking it all in the little holes. So you just use little holes like they're vases and tuck it down inside so that you can't see the holes anymore. That's what covers the top of your pumpkin. And then I also took a leaf from a flower that, I save all my leaves when I'm done trimming off flowers. I save everything. So I just use a leaf from one of the Dollar Tree flowers. And you can see I'm tearing it all apart now because I changed my mind, but I did end up going with this little wood stick that I had ordered a bunch of them from Amazon because I think they make better pumpkin stems in my opinion. And then of course I'm going to use the leaf again and glue it back on there. And I had a flower that looked like it was in a beautiful autumn warm orange. I did end up tucking a little bit more Spanish moss at the top, but look at that. Considering what it's made out of, I think it came up so beautiful. Well, that's it for now, and if you're as excited as I am about fall coming up with all the beautiful colors, give this video a thumbs up, share it, like it, comment. I love to read your comments, and as always, until the next video, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.